and I hope all of you have had a very sinister Halloween. Due to my work, I was unable to post on Halloween night, but I do have 2 stories for you. So sit back and relax and let this nightmare unfold. One evening, when I was in my junior year of high school, my mom and dad went out, leaving me home alone. I had a lot of homework to do, so I spent the whole evening sitting at my desk in my bedroom. My parents left the house around 6 p.m. I was going to do my homework, and I put my headphones on and listened to loud music. There was this big storm that night, and my desk was facing outside the window so I could see the rain and the lightning outside. My parents got back around 11 p.m. When I saw their car drive up, I took off the headphones. As soon as my mom opened the front door and came inside, I heard her shout my name. "What on earth is happening here?" she demanded in an angry voice. Confused, I ran downstairs. My mom was standing in the hallway with a furious look on her face. She pointed at the floor and yelled, "Was this you?" I looked down and I saw the carpet, and it was covered in muddy footprints. "I have no idea how those got there," I said. "I spent the whole night at my desk doing my homework." I watched as the look on her face changed from anger to confusion, and then to fear. We both realized at the same time someone else must have been in the house. We followed the trail of footprints, trying to make sense of the whole situation. They started at the back door, which we usually left unlocked. Then we noticed something else. The footprints started at the back door, but there was no trail of footprints leaving through the back door. All of a sudden, we hear something loud, a pounding noise that echoed throughout the house. Then, the sound of the front door being wrenched open and slammed shut again. We all ran into the garage and locked the door behind us. My mom took out her cell phone and called the police. "Please, someone come quickly," she shouted. "Someone's in our house." After what seemed like hours, a patrol car finally arrived with 2 officers, a male and a female. One officer stayed with us in the garage while his partner went through the house, searching room by room. When she came back, the female officer told us that there was no one in the house and it was safe to go back in. As we were all breathing a sigh of relief, she asked, "Whose bedroom is upstairs on the left?" My parents looked at me. "It's mine," I told the officer. She asked us to follow her. As we walked through the house, we could see that the trail of muddy footprints leading from the back door, through the living room, through the hallway, up the stairs into my parents' bedroom, and then going towards my room. They stopped at my doorway. The female officer pointed at my door, which had been open the whole night. Scrawled on it in black marker was the following: 8:47 p.m. I see you. 8:53 p.m. You forgot to lock the back door. 8:59 p.m. You seem focused. 9:24 p.m. Turn around. 9:47 p.m. Look at me. 10:15 p.m. Look at me. 10:37 p.m. Look at me. 10:49 p.m. Look at me. For more than 2 hours, someone has been standing in my doorway, watching me. To this day, I still shudder to think what would happen if I had turned around. Samantha had two best friends named Jenny and Amber. Her father was taking her on a weekend vacation, and she invited them along. Her family owned a cabin in the woods, and on Friday evening, her father drove the girls up there. "See the lake?" asked Samantha as they arrived. "That's Lake Samantha. My dad grew up there. He loved it so much that he named me after the lake." That night, after they had unpacked their things, the three girls sat around and thought of ways to amuse themselves. "Does anyone have any spooky stories?" asked Amber. "I have one," said Jenny. "It's a true story, too. It happened to a friend of mine. She was babysitting these two little kids one night. She's sitting in the dark by herself, watching TV, and the phone rings. She goes over and answers it and hears a voice on the other end, breathing really heavily. And it says, 'Have you checked in on the children?'" "Jenny, come on," Amber interrupted. "Everyone's heard that one. That's the lamest scary story ever. Does anyone else have a story? One that's actually true?" "I know one," Samantha said. "About 10 minutes of hiking from here, there's an old broken down house. We passed it on the way up here. It's out in the middle of nowhere, tucked away off of a narrow-sided road. A long time ago, a man lived there. His family were very wealthy, and they owned hundreds of acres of land around here. This man met a simple country girl from a simple country town, and they fell in love. His family wasn't too happy about it. They didn't think the girl was good enough for him, but he ignored them. He was an independent type of guy, and he went off and built a little house on a chunk of their land out in the middle of nowhere. He married this girl, and everything was wonderful. They had a daughter, and eventually they had a son. This is where the story starts to go bad. Their son was sick, not physically, but mentally. He was sick in the head. He wasn't mentally disabled or anything, just he was a little off. By the time he was 9 years old, he became too much for his parents to handle, throwing temper tantrums, erratic sleeping patterns, disappearing into the woods and hiding, that kind of thing. Not knowing what to do about his son, the man turned to his family for help. His parents had the boy taken away. They sent him to a deep place in the woods. It wasn't an insane asylum, but it catered to people with special needs, if you know what I mean. His parents thought it was for the best. Over time, the family got used to not having him around. They gradually stopped visiting him. They functioned as if he never had a son, and everything went back to being wonderful again. But 8 years later, the boy was about 16 or 17 at this time. He managed to escape from the hospital. The staff did search, but he was nowhere to be found. His family was notified, and they were devastated. They were worried for his safety. He had been alone in the wilderness for weeks, and he was probably dead. But the boy wasn't dead. One night, he found his way back home. He crept into his house, and one by one, he slaughtered his entire family. His father, his mother, his sister. All of them chopped into pieces. With blood still dripping from his axe, he disappeared into the woods. When the grisly remains of his family were discovered a few days later, the townsfolk in the surrounding area were horrified. The police tried to find the boy, but it was no use. To this day, he has never been found. Since then, every year around harvest time, people have started to go missing. And in their place, a corn-husked doll would be left behind. Legend has it the boy still roams the woods around these parts. The surrounding towns have bought into the legend, and they hang dolls by their front door for protection. And they say if the boy sees a doll hanging from the door of a house, he will pass that house by and leave the residents in peace. Nobody knows if this is true or not, but there's a doll hanging from the door of every house in town. That's so creepy, cried Jenny. Do you have a doll in front of your door? Of course, Samantha said. My dad says he doesn't believe in the legend, but we hung one just in case. I think I just soiled my pants, said Amber. Apparently the house is still haunted by the ghost of the murdered family. And if you go up there at night, you can hear the whole thing take place all over again. Do you think we can go up there? Jenny asked. Sure, but tomorrow during the day, there's no sense in tempting fate, said Samantha. That night, the girls slept in the same room and huddled together, trying to pretend they weren't frightened by the story and expecting to hear something tapping at the window at any moment. The next morning, Samantha's father made them all a big breakfast and they went down to the lake for a swim. Around noon, they decided to take the trip up to the old haunted house. When they got there, the girls sensed an eerie presence in the old, decrepit place. It was enough to make their own skin crawl. They explored the ruins of the old house, peeking into every corner, sifting through the rubble. After a while, Samantha spotted something half burnt in the dirt. It was some sort of book. She dug it out and dusted it off. The girls gathered around and she opened it and began to flip through the yellow pages. It's like a diary or something, said Samantha. Maybe it's his diary, Jenny whispered. Whose diary? Asked Amber. That guy, the one who killed his family, said Jenny. Samantha read the diary out loud as the others listened. There's a dedication inscribed inside the cover, she said. It reads, "To my family who I love and cherish and who will always be with me. September 5th, 1987. It has been a hard one alone. All they had to do was talk to me. They could not talk to me. I hear their voices late at night sometimes. I hear their screams. It's cold, it's dark. I need love. They did not love me. The medicines are gone. I'm free. I'm free from all of them. If they could not love me, they had to go. Dark sleep for everyone. I hear their voices still, always screaming." December 4th, 1987. They had stopped looking for me. It's okay for me now. I live in the forest. I chase down the animals and put them in a dark sleep. Just like my mom, just like my dad, my sister. Now, I visit the old house at night and I listen to their voices. At least they talk to me now. Yes, they do. They talk to me now. October 3rd, 1995. I left the forest years ago and moved to a small town nearby. No one recognizes me. No one knows who I am. I hear people telling my story sometimes. It makes me laugh inside. They fear me. I still come to the forest sometimes. I spend the nights in my old house. Mom and Dad still talk to me. They say they're very proud of me. November 2nd, 1998. Life has been good. I found a job, and I bought a house. I met a girl, too. She's very quiet and pretty. Sometimes I bring her to the forest. She likes it. I let Mom and Dad see her. They like her. They really do. July 1st, 2000. Today is a great day. I have a baby now. I'm so happy. Mom and Dad are grandparents now. My wife isn't doing so well, though. It was hard for her. She might not make it. Maybe she will go in dark sleep. I'm happy now. August 13th, 2010. I'm so proud of my child. She's just like me, except so much smarter. She has no problems. She doesn't hear the voices. She goes to school and has lots of friends. Not like me. Sometimes I take her to the woods. I love her so much. I named her after the lake, Samantha. After a few moments, Samantha stopped reading. There was a stunned silence. "What the heck?" cried Jenny. "Samantha, this is some kind of joke, right?" Amber asked nervously. "It isn't funny." This can't be true," Samantha whispered. "It couldn't possibly be." And just then, they heard the sounds of twigs snapping behind them. When they turned around, they saw Samantha's father standing there. There was a strange, pained look on his face, and he was holding an axe in his hands. "You weren't supposed to find that," he muttered. "There's no other way now. Dark sleep for everyone." Samantha cried and screamed over and over, as did her friends. When Samantha's father had finished chopping up the bodies, he put the pieces in large plastic bags and buried them deep in the woods. So deep that no one could ever find them. Now they could be together forever. "I'll watch over you now," he mumbled as he patted down the earth with his shovel. "You may not understand now, but you will in time. This is the only way for us to be together dark sleep. Forever we shall stay together.